No.
All
right, so we're gonna get started. I am so glad I didn't move rooms. You see, people, we had 27 people register to attend in person and a lot more to attend virtually. And you people virtually are showing up, so thank you. If I had moved rooms, I would have been embarrassed because we would have been in a huge room with you wonderful people. So thank you everybody for joining us today. I'm Cecile and I'm the coordinator of the Mawji Center here at NAIT. At NAIT, we honor and acknowledge that the land on which we learn, work, and live is Treaty 6 territory. This place is a traditional homeland for the First Nations and Métis peoples, and today we are all part of this treaty land. The traditional name for this place is Amiskwachi Waskigan, which we also call the city of Edmonton. So today we're lucky because we have Monika joining us, Monika Adams, formerly Taylor, joining us, and she has grandparents looking after her little wee one, Liam. So I can't remember how we met. I remember asking you if you'd be on our podcast, but I can't remember how you came to my attention before that.
I think social media.
Yeah. So Monika is an alum of the J.R. Shaw School of Business back when it was in the Tower. And she got involved with our podcast, and then she got involved as one of our mentors, and she's coached many students on to winning pitch competitions, as well as help mentor students in the areas of marketing and social marketing. So we're really lucky to have her today. I'm going to hand it over to Monika. We're going to get right into it.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I know some of you are tuning in, or there's like 19 of you, I just looked on the screen, tuning in, but it's also nice to see faces in person. Is this a good spot to stand?
You're good.
About the whole wall.
Wow.
Yeah, you can even
Then-
inside it.
Okay. So I'm formerly known as Monika Taylor, and I'm Monika Adams, and I do have a almost 5-month-old son at home, Liam. So I'm happy to be here today, obviously with Bob and Papa watching him at home. I am in my 6th year of Monika Social. Formerly before that, I had about 10 years of corporate experience working for home and land developers. The previous place that I worked at, I was doing anything as a marketing coordinator, doing traditional marketing. I've also done working with Pattison, with some of my other colleagues. Actually, I went to school with at NAIT. I've worked with some of them in Pattison and other places. So it's funny how we've all stayed in touch. But then, of course, I did social media for this home and land developer that was out of Edmonton and their Calgary location. And then from there, I had a couple of realtors actually ask me if I could do their social media. And that is how I got to here today. For those of you that Cecile was just telling you that I got started kind of coming to the Mawji Center through the podcast. I actually have my own podcast. It's called Get Discovered with Monika Social, and it's on anything you listen to a podcast on. And I've been doing that for now 2 years, putting my chatty Cathiness to good use. But I have a lot of marketing, business, and social media things that I talk about on the podcast. So it's really good educational to listen to, as well as I have entrepreneurs that come on it. So guests come on it and speak about how they utilize social media to grow their business. So if you want to take a listen to that, I always just like to mention it because it's a wealth of knowledge to listen to some of those episodes. But today I am going to be speaking about how to utilize social media for your business, as a business in whole, as an entrepreneur, or if somebody who already has a business launched. We're going to go over some very basic things. I do want to say though, if you guys have any questions, I will probably speak for like 35 minutes. And I do like to leave a big chunk of time for people to ask me questions, because I know that's why you guys have all come here today. So if you have any questions while I'm speaking, write them down and do ask me at the end. And don't feel like any question is a stupid question. I just like to say before I get started. All right. So I just like to go over a couple of my services, because people will always ask me this kind of, what do you do other than helping as a marketing mentor for the Mawji Center? I do help entrepreneur students here at the Mawji Center, but then as Monika Social, my services quickly are, I do social media management, one-on-one social media training, and that it can be big corporations. I've helped big companies like TELUS, Raptor Mining, some of the other mentors here at the Mawji Center. I've actually gone in there and helped their employees learn how to use things like LinkedIn or Facebook to grow their business, and then social media strategy plans, And then social media marketing and speaking, kind of like I'm doing today. I'm part of a couple of chambers in Edmonton and Leduc, so I do a lot of speaking stuff like this. Okay, so I just want to get started with getting you guys to think a little bit. If you are a small business, what do you think you would be missing out on if you're not on social media? A lot of people I come across to, it'll sometimes be an older audience will say to me, you know, Monika, I have this business and I'm an entrepreneur. I've kind of been doing a little bit of traditional stuff. I'm using referrals. I may be using, you know, radio. I'm using newsletters. And I'll kind of say, you know what, that's traditional marketing. I did learn that in school. We are all learning that if you're in taking marketing here at NAIT, but those ways are becoming not the way that you're going to get noticed in today's market. It's no longer, should I be on social media? It's, you actually need to be on social media to grow your business. It's not really an option anymore. There's a stat where 63% of respondents look up products and brands on social media before making a purchase. I'm sure a lot of you are thinking, is that true? You probably go on something like Instagram or TikTok without knowing, and you look at something like, hey, there's that new Nike shoe. Oh, that person has it on Instagram, they're wearing it, so I want to go purchase it. A lot of us are influenced now on things like TikTok and Instagram with thinking of, hey, that person's wearing that new top, where did they get it from? I want to buy it. So you are being influenced without even knowing you're being influenced half the time. Social media sites have a higher daily user statistics than typical websites. So a lot of people will say to me, you know, do I need a website? Do I need social media? Yes, you do need both of them because they work very closely together. So people will go on your Instagram and then click the link in your bio and go to your website. People will go to your website, finding your social media on the top of your website. It should be there. And they'll click on your stuff to go to your social media platforms. But it is very likely that most people are going to find you on social media today rather than just finding you on your website through Google. Yes, they can find you that way, but they're going to find you quicker through things like Instagram or your LinkedIn. And then social media, of course, increases brand awareness. I know you guys have all heard this. I'm going to go a little bit more in depth with that one. Okay, so how do you build your brand presence using social media? There's things like you first want to start with some of these things. So I'm just going to go through them very quickly. And of course, if you guys have more questions on, hey, could you explain that a little bit further? You can ask me at the end. But the biggest thing is you're going to start with, you need to identify your social media goals. So we can sit here and think, hey, we're just going to start an Instagram and a TikTok account. But if you don't sit down and have a social media strategy plan with your goals in mind, then you kind of don't have anything to work towards. You don't have anything to measure. This is where we're going to go into a little bit more about, you want to have goals, but then you also want to actually be measuring those goals with your social media analytics. So we'll go over that a little bit more. And then number 2 is get to know your audience. So number 1, I'm going to have these goals. I'll go over a little bit more what goals are for an example, but get to know your audience. So you're going to have to do a little bit of homework before starting your social media accounts. And I'm going to go over, of course, what ones to go on and what demographics are on certain ones. But first, you just need to think, who is my target audience? So is my target audience female, male? What's the age range? What do they do in their spare time? Do they like to do gardening? Do they like to do home renovations? You're going to have to kind of make a little list of who your target audience is. And if you don't have one, you probably do have one. You just need to think about it or look in your analytics to narrow it down. Again, it's important to know your audience so that your content can be presented to them in a proper way to get your message across. And then learn how to engage with your audience. So if your audience is younger, then you're going to have to do more video content. You're going to have to make things more appealing to them. You're going to have to speak their language. Your tone of voice is going to have to be the way they speak. You might have to use a little bit of emojis. You might have to, again, if your audience is older, you might have to do things like, hey, I'm going to share more formal things, professional things, or I'm going to have to make sure I'm using things like LinkedIn and Facebook. Thinking a little bit more about who your target audience is will really help you. And then staying on brand. So staying on brand is really important. Of course, we all know there's basically your graphical guidelines. So when you get a logo made or branding made, you'll usually get like, basically, they'll tell you your Pantone colors, your typography that you need to use, but it goes even further than that. It goes further things like the way I'm going to show up on my social media. Am I going to use the same filter on my photos? Am I going to use the same wording, the tone, the messaging? So it's really important that you kind of narrow this down and you show up that way. Of course, your branding needs to come, these things have to be figured out first to focus on your branding. So your tone has to be speaking the way that your audience speaks. So if your audience is older, you need to be using their language, the way they speak. If they're younger, you need to use a little bit more of their words or their lingo or their slang per se. So these are really things that you're going to have to go through and make sure that you have it figured out to build your brand presence on social media. And then be authentic. So biggest thing about being authentic in a broader way is just making sure that you show up with your personality, that you're authentic. You're going to share your story in your authentic way. So if you're quirky or if you're funny, you're going to show up that way. And you're going to tell people a little bit about yourself so that you're building a story behind the business, not just always promoting business stuff, that you're building a story to say, hey, I'm Monika Adams. You know, in my spare time, I like to do yoga. I like to do this and that. And then you can do your business stuff, the 80-20 rule a little bit. So make sure that you're staying authentic and that you are showing up authentically, of course, even with responding to messages on your social media channels as well. And then branch out to new platforms. So a lot of people will think, you know, I have my target audience in mind, and maybe you're really comfortable on Facebook. I'll often hear people say, I'm on Facebook. That's good enough. Okay, but we have to try to come out of our comfort zone and think, okay, we need to at least be on at least 2 platforms. You know, maybe this is something that you're kind of been hesitant about, but maybe your target audience is on Facebook, but they're also on Instagram. Or maybe they're on Facebook, but they're also on LinkedIn. We're going to go over a little bit more about the target audiences on each platform and what they can do for your business. But you just have to think a little bit more about, hey, maybe I need to branch out to a new platform to build my brand presence a little further. And then posting consistently. Biggest thing I'll notice is that's why I'm in business, is most people will say, hey, no, I'll do my own social media. And they'll realize that once their business gets busier, that they can't manage it themselves. They'll go from 3 posts a week, which is very on average what you should be doing on social media is at least 3 posts a week. They'll go from that to 1 post a week. And then they might not even post for a month. And so that's not staying consistent. Your brand has to stay consistent for it to be building and showing a presence again. People are going to be thinking, well, I never thought about using Monika Social because she didn't post for a whole month. So it's being consistent and having a content calendar and posting consistently. So I'm going to post Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and I'm going to make sure that that's my focus. Again, I never tell people to be on all 6 platforms because nobody can probably stay up to that unless you have somebody like me doing your social media. So it's good to focus on really well, at least 2 to 3, and making sure you're showing up consistently on those 2 to 3. And then giving your social media presence some personality. So that's a little bit to do with the branding, but the personality stuff is like, let's say, for instance, you're a big fan of Friends, like I am. You'll notice on my Monika Social a lot, I have a big sense of humor, but I'm a big fan of Friends. So I'll have a lot of memes to do with Friends on there. People will say to me, is that professional? Should you do it? Well, for my audience, it works really well because I actually have a high engagement rate on those posts because people find it really humorous. Or I have a lot of people that also like Friends because, again, that's my target audience. They probably are that age range that grew up watching Friends, the millennials like myself. So for me, it works. But show your personality. If you're a quirky person, if you're creative, if you're an artist, if you're a sports person, make sure that you're having that presence on your social media. And then harness the power of hashtags. One of the biggest things is that hashtags are the way that you're going to get your social media post out and being seen the quickest. Every social media platform has hashtags. It's just every social media platform has a different way of using those hashtags. If that's a question that you want me to go on a little bit more at the end, just write down that you want me to speak a little bit more about hashtags on social media platforms. We're going to go to the next one. Okay, which platform should you engage in? So the biggest thing is obviously identify your target audience. So these are just questions to make you guys think while you're sitting here watching us today, is who is your typical customer? So who's your typical customer? Is it somebody that is a certain age, lives somewhere downtown, do live in the country, who live in BC? How old are they? How are they male or female? What is their income and educational level? So this is a target audience, or you're making personas. So personas are basically a target audience, but you can have 1, 2, 3 personas, and those people can be based on, I'm a female, my name is Jane, my income is I make 100,000, education, I have a master's in accounting. So you're making these personas can show up on different social media platforms, but you're going to want to still target those 3 personas. And then what are their interests in outside of your product and service? So if it's somebody who's looking for social media help, okay, but what else do they do? Okay, maybe they're really big on graphic design, they're big on artist stuff. You have to figure out a little bit more of what their interests are outside of the business so that you can try to target them as well. And again, why you want to figure this out is what other hashtags are they going to be under? So a lot of my followers are obviously mothers. We could all guess that one. So what do they do outside of this? Well, they're obviously doing activities with their kids or moms groups. So why wouldn't I be using a hashtag like Yay Moms? Because I want to show up under my target audience. I'm just trying to make you guys think a little bit about your target audience and why that's really important to figure out. And then identifying your goals. So I'm kind of going over it a little bit more just because I really want to make sure that you guys think about it. So it's always a good idea to have 3 social media goals. Brainstorming a list of both typical and unusual ways social media could work for your brand. So typical ways are doing a graphic post. An untypical way.
You're still in the camera.
Was I still in the camera? Okay, well, that's good. It's got a really wide lens then. An untypical way would be I'm going to use an influencer to promote my brand. So I'm going to do a social media contest with somebody who is my target audience. So I'm going to use an influencer that's a mom in Edmonton, and I'm going to get her to do a giveaway with me. That's an untypical way, but it's a really good way of growing your social media presence, is doing things like that with an influencer and then doing a giveaway with them. Just to make you guys think a little bit about goals. And then find your audience, determine which platforms your audiences are using by demographics of using each platform. I'm going to go over this pretty quickly because the more important part I want to go over is the actual platforms. Because you guys are probably thinking, well, what platforms or what audiences? And I just like to dumb it down very simply. So Facebook is a really good platform for an older audience. As to see yes, my mom and dad are in their 60s.
I'm hardly on there, people.
Yeah, you're on there all the time. So a general audience is obviously the baby boomers. So that would be my mom and dad. They're mostly on Facebook, but they're mostly on Facebook because they want to see their family and friends. So to build relationships and keep in contact with old friends. They're on there to keep on with people from high school, college, or to see their family and friends and of course their grandchildren on Facebook. So if your target audience is an older audience, so Facebook is anywhere between 30 and I would say 65, maybe 70. But believe it or not, there are some 7-year-olds that are on Facebook. I mean, my dad's 65, he's on Facebook all the time. So it's just a kind of a general age. But you're gonna have more people that are in the baby boomers. So like 60 to like 65 is kind of the baby boomers, or 70. Yeah, I think that.
He's a little older, yeah.
Yeah, a little
Older,
older.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
My dad's at the end of the baby boomers, so I think 65 to 70. And then Facebook makes a good platform for building the loyalty of your existing customer base. So Facebook is a really good place for, again, SEO. So why do you want to have a Facebook business page? Is because it actually helps your SEO on Google. Having social media platform pages helps your SEO on Google. Also, people will find you on Facebook, and your profile, your business profile on Facebook should have all your services, should have all your information, should have your website. So it's a direct link to your website. That's why you want to have a Facebook business account. And then Facebook Messenger actually is a huge thing now. So Facebook obviously was pretty smart. They thought, hey, we're going to make Facebook Messenger. And then to make it even more kind of maybe not annoying, kind of annoying, you can do Facebook ads. So I'm talking organic, but once you do paid ads on Facebook, you can actually have your ad show up on Messenger. People use Messenger to speak to their family and friends or their kids. So if your ad shows up on there, it's a really good way of targeting that older audience. So this is why Facebook is really still a very good social media platform. A younger audience, though, is going to tell me otherwise. They're going to say, I'm not going to go on Facebook. But if you are a business owner, you still might want to have a Facebook business page. So you don't have to use it personally. You do have to have a personal account to have a business page. I get asked this all the time, so I'm going to mention that. But you can just have a page, a personal page, and not be using it, not putting anything on it, but just so you can have your Monika Social Facebook page. It's important that you have it because Facebook and Instagram are the same company. So when you do a paid ad, you can have it go on Facebook and Instagram. It's important that you use those two together. I always get asked that all the time. Do I have to have a personal account to have a Facebook business account? And you do.
They changed that.
They haven't changed that. They won't because they want to make sure they know who you are under the business, under copywriting laws. So if I took away my Monika Adams personal, they'd be like, who's running that page? They would never have anybody to be responsible for that page, especially if it was like an admin person and they didn't know who the owner of that page was if something ever happened. They might take it away, but I don't really think they will. I just think if anything, a lot of people will just get off of Facebook and start utilizing Instagram more, which is what we're already seeing.
By the way, boomers are 59 to 77. So
There. So it was actually a little bit younger. I was saying 60, so pretty close. Okay.
Cecile, I think you're an Xer, Gen Xer then.
That's funny. Okay, I know a lot of you are going to say, oh my gosh, he's talking about Twitter. I actually am on Twitter quite a bit. I was on Twitter since Twitter started around when I was actually at NAIT graduating. So in 2009, I made my Twitter and LinkedIn account, and they're still the same ones today, which is really funny. Twitter is an excellent platform to build awareness for your brand. Also, Twitter utilizes hashtags very well, so you can find which organization conversations are around a word or phrase. So if you want to use hashtag GAG, you'll find a conversation of what the latest posts are in Edmonton today. If you want to find out a lot of people will use Twitter for a lot of like events and news and things that are happening in Edmonton. But believe it or not, if your target audience is on there, it is a good way to give customer service to your basically your database, because a lot of people will follow, I'm going to follow TELUS, okay, but if I have a problem with TELUS, I'm going to message them on Twitter and tweet about it. And that's a good way of keeping up your customer service, is people will often reach out in through Twitter and reaching them that way. And Twitter can also track your analytics for your company so that you can see what's working and what isn't. Sometimes I'll use things like a Jiffy or GIF on my Twitter, and I'll just do something like happy Monday morning. And it's amazing how many people will like it if it's just something positive or outgoing. Often, sometimes I'll talk now about my son or what I'm doing in my day, but for some reason, my target audience really likes that, those little updates and stuff, but I'll obviously put some of my business stuff on there. Again, it's all about your target audience. I would say the target audience for Twitter obviously is a little bit older as well. So I would say anywhere from 30 to 60 is probably your general audience on Twitter. You guys, is anybody on Twitter in here?
Mostly just for business.
See?
There's
Yeah.
a lot of businesses on Twitter.
There's a lot of businesses and a lot more people are getting on it, like business-wise, like down to realtors, plumbers, mortgagers, anything that's in like the service industry, they really are getting on Twitter. And LinkedIn. So LinkedIn obviously is your professional platform. LinkedIn is actually the longest social media platform that's been around. I've been on it since 2009. LinkedIn has the distinction of being the most utilized platform for the older audiences, but they also are the longest running platform. So LinkedIn is old, but there's reasons why it's still been around, because it's professional and it's come a long way since 09. with a lot of the stuff you can do on it now. Obviously, it is a larger audiences. It actually has a really big audience in my age range. So millennials use LinkedIn quite a bit on a professional way. So if somebody wants to find me for social media corporate training, they actually find me mostly on LinkedIn and then Instagram. But a lot of corporate people find me on LinkedIn, believe it or not, than Instagram. So it's a good thing to think about if your business is a B2B business. So people use LinkedIn to search for jobs and to network professionally. So again, if you're like me, a social media consultant, or you're a service provider, it is good to have a LinkedIn personal account, and then you can have a business one. But most importantly, as a professional, even as a student or as an entrepreneur, it's a really good thing to have a LinkedIn account to have connections. A lot of people will be there on there as a corporate head. So your CEOs, your business owners, they will go on LinkedIn in the morning before they'll go on Facebook. So somebody like people that are in local government or in the government, they go to work and they spend the first half an hour going on LinkedIn, looking what's going on. So if you want to reach more of the corporate people that make decisions in a company, they're mostly going to be using LinkedIn. The decision makers are all obviously also an older audience most of the time. So those are your baby boomers that are spending most of the time on LinkedIn. And then B2B lead generation, general networking, as well as recruiting employees is very huge on LinkedIn. Also now you can do things like hashtags are really big on LinkedIn as well. They help you out with that a little bit more now on LinkedIn with what your text is. They'll start suggesting hashtags that you should be using, as well as you can do things like actual video now on LinkedIn. It's not as stuffy and old school as some people previously thought about it is. So I always say give it a chance and see what it'll do for your business. And then Instagram. Instagram is one of the fastest growing platforms. That is probably where I spend most of my time is Instagram and LinkedIn. Instagram is just an easier way to grow organically. Why I say this is because hashtags are huge on LinkedIn. You don't always have to spend money to get noticed on LinkedIn. Like some other platforms now, you almost have to spend money to get noticed, like Facebook. You have to spend money to get noticed because it's not as heavy on hashtags. But Instagram is the fastest growing, especially a younger audience. So those are your millennials or even your younger generations. They mostly are hanging out on Instagram, if not TikTok, which I'm going to cover as well too. But Instagram has a very heavy spot for it. Instagram relies on photos or videos for conversation, to spark conversation, as well as results. This platform works really well for visual-based businesses like art, food, retail, and beauty. It also does really well for people with services. So if somebody like me can do like how-to videos or help educate people, that also does well. Obviously now we know Reels are really heavy on Instagram. So a lot of it has to do with videos, but of course it's kind of, the Reels are like TikTok, which I'll touch on. But people like Instagram, most of all when it first started, because it's less noisier than Facebook. So it doesn't have all these articles and paid ads. It's not seeing stuff that you don't want to see. The analytics and the algorithm are going to show you more stuff that you want to see, and it's just not so noisy with ads. So if you have any more questions about Instagram, just write it down and ask me soon. And then TikTok. So yes, TikTok is known for its short form videos like Pinterest and Instagram. TikTok is best known for visual-based businesses like art, food, retail, beauty, and some service industries. I am noticing more and more my target audience or my niche is more in the real estate industry. I'm seeing more and more realtors, home builders, people that even do flooring, tiling companies, lighting companies are showing up on TikTok because they're trying to target the first-time home buyers audience, which is mostly on TikTok. We all know why TikTok's doing so well. During the pandemic, we were all bored, cooped up. It was something fun to watch and entertain ourselves. And so we got kind of hooked on it. Because again, I will spend an hour on there and I don't even know what the hour went by. Also, the platform is useful for targeting the 18 to 25 age group and building brand awareness. So a lot of people, if your target audience is on TikTok, it's a good idea to think about being on it, but you are going to have to show up on it. There are ways of making some videos where you can have like words and photos, but eventually people are going to want to see the business owner or who's working the business. So you're going to have a video content strategy. So there is going to be some more work for that. Again, TikTok, of course, is not for everybody, but it is somewhere where we are seeing some growth in it. But Instagram is still dominating for more growth and business growth. YouTube. So a lot of people forget about YouTube, but YouTube actually is a social media platform. Again, it depends what industry you are. Obviously, it has like 2.3 billion users and growing. You don't have to sign up to be a user to view content on YouTube. So a lot of people like that. You can go on YouTube and look at stuff, or, hey, how do I do this as a mom? What are some sensory baby things? I can just go on there and look at it. I don't have to have an account on YouTube. But it is very well used for people that want to make how-to videos. So again, if you're a service industry person and you want to show people how to make this cake or how to build this thing, it's a really good way. Again, YouTube does have a high ranking on Google, so it does really help with your SEO, as well as if you're trying to get more globally known, you're going to grow quicker globally on YouTube. It will help you locally. It just take a little bit more time. It's not as fast growing as things like Instagram locally. But YouTube is still very important for people that are offering service-based businesses. Again, YouTube does take more video content, so you're going to have a video content strategy. Okay, so I know we're at the half-an-hour mark, and I know I like to ask people, well, most people like to ask questions, and I can dive in a little bit more. This was just a very quick presentation on what you should do as a business owner. I'm pretty sure I covered everything, but if anybody has any questions, also if you want to follow me on any social media, I'm basically at Monika Social. The Monika is with a K, or you can go on my website, monikasocial.com, and all my social media platforms are on there. And yes, I am on TikTok. I am on everything, basically. You can find me everywhere.
We'll start with one online question. Yeah. My husband, so this is from Kimberly. My husband and I are just getting started on launching our business, so we would be starting social media as a platform to build our business. I have a worry that we are too late to take advantage, given its rapid changes on the ongoing basis. Is it too late to get started since it changes so much?
It's never too late. So the biggest thing is I don't know what business you're starting. That's what I'm going to ask you first. So if it's a service-based business, it's never too late. I would always say when I'm working with an entrepreneur, or if I'm meeting with somebody, I always say, okay, what's your target audience? And if they don't know that, I will even help some people figure that out. And that's diving into sometimes your analytics. But if you don't have anything set up, literally just think of your target audience. So male, female, age range. Okay, let's start with Facebook, and then let's start with Instagram. So comfort level, I always say to start with 1 or 2, and then that's enough. So things like starting with Facebook is really easy. You just have to have a personal page first, and then set up your business page. And then same thing with Instagram. I also like to note that you should always have your handle the same on every social media platform, so you're easy to find. So let's say it's taken. Well, okay, mine was taken on Twitter, so I'm Monika Social Yag on Twitter. But you should always try to be at Monika Social or at whatever your business name is, the same on every platform. But it's never too late to get started. It's about just starting and making a plan. So posting consistently. So if I'm gonna make my Facebook, that's great, but you need to be actually posting on it. I'll often get asked, well, what am I posting on it? If you are not a graphic designer or you don't have, I don't know, any time for that, there's something called Canva that you can use to make graphics very simply. So it's literally called Canva. You can Google it, and they have an app on your phone or on your laptop, and there's actual videos to show you how to get started and how to make simple graphics. Again, you are gonna have to know if you don't have a logo, you should think about getting a logo, but if you do have a logo, you need to figure out what colors are in your logo and use that on your Canva graphics. Again, you don't want to be using 10 different colors. You want to stay on brand on your social media platforms. I hope that helps answer that.
I have a oddly specific question involving Canva.
Okay,
So Canva has a ton of fonts.
yeah,
Obviously, if you choose your brand font, you want to stay within there.
yeah.
Do you know if Canva fonts can upload to WordPress or if that's available at all?
Like if you want to take that,
I want to take the Canva font, I want to put it on my website. It's a WordPress website, but I
Yeah.
can't figure out how to import the Canva font from Canva or onto WordPress.
so it should be on Google Fonts.
Is Google Fonts?
Yeah, so Google has fonts that
Yeah.
you can use on your website. So on your back end, the easiest way is to go on Google, actually do it that way. If it's not a common one,
Yeah, it's not there.
it's not on Google.
It's not on Google Fonts, no.
Then there might, you can actually search one that's similar to it.
Okay,
So like a lot of the times there'll be one, but there's a similar one to it and then Google Fonts have it.
okay, yeah, because it's a premium Canva font, like one of the.
I can
big-
probably help you with that
Okay.
on showing you how to figure that out.
Okay.
But like, for instance, let's say you're a Sans, there's always one that's similar to it.
Okay,
So there's always a sister one that's more similar. Even then, most websites, you can figure out a way to do it on the back end.
okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, good question. Next online one was from James. He said, can the recommended 3 posts per week be recycled posts?
That's a good question. So repurposing, I'm really big on that. I often will tell people that you can repurpose stuff from even 3 months ago. I wouldn't repurpose the same stuff from a week ago, but if it's from 3 months ago and it's a graphic that you made or a quote, there's no problem with repurposing that. Again, a lot of people will post the same thing on Facebook that they're posting on Instagram. So there's ways of utilizing that. Obviously, Facebook and Instagram have free scheduling as well now. I always like to mention that, so you don't have to use something like Later or Hootsuite. That's more for people that are trying to get it on a bunch of different platforms, or somebody like me who's managing somebody's. But if you're just doing Facebook and Instagram, you can actually schedule it now through business, the Facebook Meta Business, and you can have it go on your Facebook and Instagram at the same time. Most platforms, actually LinkedIn now offers you to schedule your posts for free. It's a new feature as well that a lot of people don't know about, and you can schedule to go out at a certain time. But there's no problem to use a graphic from like a year ago and repurpose it again. That's different ways of doing it. Also, somebody will say to me, hey, I had a graphic, but maybe now I want to make it into a video. Well, you can actually make a simple little reel video actually in Canva. So in Canva, there's reel options where you can use photos to make like a video that will like basically be moving like a carousel. A lot of people don't know that reels don't have to be your face. You can actually use words or you can use photos, and it just has to be moving. So there's lots of apps to help you with that as well too.
Okay, there's a few people who wanted more on hashtags.
Okay, did they have a specific question on hashtags?
No, they said more hashtags, please, more on hashtags, please.
Because it's very important. Okay, so hashtag strategy. Yes, it's very important. You need to think about your target audience. So again, a lot of people will use generic hashtags. So generic hashtags are like hashtag Nike. Okay, but that hashtag Nike is only going to get you seen globally. So you need to think more, where do I want to be seen? If I'm a business that wants to grow locally, then I need to be using the airport code in that area. So if not hashtag Edmonton, I need to be using hashtag YEG. Now, that kind of gets you started for hashtag YEG. But then if you're a service base that is real estate, then you're going to have to look up YEG real estate. And when you're on something like Instagram, you can actually go in the search bar and you can search what hashtags are trending or which ones are widely used. You'll see the number on it and you'll go, okay, that's a high count. That's a hashtag I should use. You're going to have to do some work though to build a hashtag group. Again, Facebook hashtags are no longer relevant. So it's not going to do as much for you. If you really want to use one on Facebook, use like 1 or 2. And then on Instagram, people ask me this all the time. They keep changing what you're going to be doing, but it's a good rule of thumb that you should still use anywhere from 5 to 10 hashtags. Now, if you want to use 30, that's great. But if you're a person that's like, I don't have time for that, then just use anywhere from 5 to 10. The thing about it is you want to be changing those up every now and again. You need to do research though and look at which ones are your target audience using. If you really don't have time to do that, go look at what your competitors are using. So I know this is like snooping or whatever, but it's a way of seeing, okay, so if I'm a realtor, well, what's that other realtor using? Are they using hashtag Yay Local? Okay, so I'm going to put that now in my hashtag. Another thing to remember too, is I always like to give this tidbit out, is that you should have at least 1 or 2 or 3 hashtags saved in your notes in your phone, so that you're not always having to sit there and put the hashtags out all the time. They're saved on your phone under your notes. You just go copy, paste. And I always will get asked this on Instagram, should I put the hashtags in the comments or should I put them in the actual text? There's no difference. A lot of people will say to me, honestly, I test it out all the time because I'm a huge tester. I'll put it in the comments for one client, and then I'll put it in the actual text below. It has no bearing on the exposure. It's just actually more important thing is that you're using the right hashtags to reach your target audience, that you're making sure you're doing your research and you're changing them up. A lot of times people will just use like one hashtag. Well, that one hashtag why, like Yay Local, that's the only one you're going to get seen in. People follow hashtags. So just think about if you're using 10 hashtags, then you're going to show up under those ones that people are following. So they're going to see you in their feed. I don't know if that helps answer people if they have more specific questions about hashtags.
Do you, just go based on questions
Yeah.
I've heard in the past, maybe you can describe where hashtags come from, so I know what that is.
Okay.
And then do you have a specific piece of software, an app or something that you use to generate hashtags?
Okay. So at first, hashtags were started out originally the first time that social media was made, but what they are is they're locational tags. So they're tags for content or location. They're used on most social media platforms. They're even used on YouTube. A lot of people don't know this, but if you're using hashtag Edmonton, people can find your content on YouTube. They're used on Pinterest. They're used on TikTok, but you want to make sure you're using the ones that to do with your service or your industry. So I will often tell people that there are apps to use, but some of those apps are not going to help you figure out locational ones in your region. So they're going to give you ones like hashtag real estate, hashtag coffee, hashtag. That's great if you want to be an influencer globally or across Canada or across the world. But some of these apps, like Later is a good one to mention. They'll give you some suggestions. There's other ones. I'm not saying don't use those. I'm saying you should use those, but also do your research. Again, LinkedIn will suggest some to you. So if you write your content, on the bottom, you'll see that they'll start giving you hashtags out of what you wrote. Use those, but then also throw in there hashtag Edmonton or whatever your area is. If you want to get seen in Kelowna, then use hashtag Kelowna. Each city or province has their own hashtag. So you have to do some research and looking at which ones are trending.
What was the app you mentioned?
Later.
It's like Hootsuite.
Yeah.
I've never heard of
for
either.
managing your
Yeah,
accounts.
but you do have to pay for it. So again, if somebody's only doing like 1 or 2 platforms, it's better to do the organic free scheduling through Facebook or scheduling it through Instagram than paying for it. A lot of people will pay because they're like me and they're managing multiple people's social media.
Yeah.
So then we'll schedule them.
Okay.
I mean, or if you're really busy.
Canva has built in.
As well, and Canva is another thing. So Canva just recently you can actually have your content calendar on Canva, and you can also schedule through Canva. So there is free ways of doing it, but the biggest thing is that most people don't know that you can do it through Facebook to schedule your Facebook and Instagram.
Okay, and then there's a question about, can you go over Instagram stories as well?
if they should be treated similar as posts or follow a different pattern.
So they should follow a different pattern. There is a little bit more, so your story should be more behind the scenes of who you are. So like today, if you find me on Instagram, I probably put up that I'm going to be here today. And then I'll probably do a couple stories around here after. So I'm showing you guys a day in my life, what I'm doing. But I also will put, when I do my post, I will put my post to my story, which is really important because believe it or not, your stories sometimes get more views than your posts. So I will often find that more people, and you'd have to look at your analytics, but more people will look at my stories than my posts. The reason behind this is on Instagram, people will just go like this and look at people's bubbles on the top instead of scrolling the whole news feed because that's more work. Again, people know they're going to see more things like myself or my cute little son or my cute little dog Peach on my story. They're not going to see that as much on my posts. My posts are a little bit more business based. There is still some of my personal stuff because again, nobody's going to want to follow you if it's all business. So it's good to follow the 80-20 rule where it's like some of it's business and some of it's personal because again, people want to see who you are outside of the business to want to follow you. So your stories, and I always get asked this, you should be doing a story, if not every day. You should be doing at least a story every day, or when you're doing those posts 3 times a week, you should be sharing your post to your story and then showing something else in the story about what you're doing. Again, it is a little bit more work. So that's why I tell people doing Facebook and Instagram is probably going to be enough because on Instagram alone, you're doing a story, a post, a reel, you're doing 3 things. So that, or fourth one, you're also going live. So there's a lot going on Instagram. That's why I tell people that their Instagram game needs to be pretty high because Instagram is going to be the fastest growing platform out of all the ones I talked about today. Good question though. Stories are very important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question about consistency of how often you have.
Yeah.
Because especially for businesses, I see that, they're posting consistently and some social media managers say, no, you have to post every day. But it gets a little bit annoying if the business is not providing like any value from their posts. Because you're just like posting your product or a video, but you're always promoting.
Yeah.
And the accounts that I follow a lot and I engage with that are businesses, they're providing value, they're showing me how to do something, or even if it's something funny, or they're showing their personality.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like, do you have to post like 3 times a week, 4 times a week? And like, how often can you be promoting your products or your services? And how often do you have to be adding that, added value?
So I would say like 80% should be business and 20% should be personal. I mean, nobody wants, just like you're saying, to always see business stuff or seeing like their services push or I'm looking for new clients. Nobody, that's eventually going to be like, okay, you want to show a little bit more of your personality. Like, here's me. These are 5 fun facts about me. And then somebody's going to go, oh, that's super cool. She used to play soccer. Oh, where did she play soccer? And then, I'm going to go look at her website because she kind of seems interesting. So I want to see what she does. So then they go click on your website. So there's other ways, like people have to think a little bit more about people are actually going to work with you because of who you are and your personality. I have a lot of competition in Edmonton, right? There's a difference between working with me and my competition because of who I am and what I offer and maybe just the different way that I speak or the stories that I tell. So people are going to connect with me because of my personality and or my niche of services. So you want to stand out against your competition. You're not going to stand out if you're just posting about your services all the time. Again, too, it's really important that people realize that I will never tell people, and you got to remember, I did social media for big organizations and companies. Even when I was doing them in the corporate world, I was only posting 3 times a week. There's no way. So we actually worked with a big agency out of Calgary and we did focus groups. If we posted every day, how many people were unfollowing our accounts? And we studied that and it was huge. So this was a big home and land developer in Edmonton and Calgary. And if we were doing something like a Facebook post every day, there was at least 5 people unfollowing us every day. And it was like growing and growing and growing. So then we thought down, okay, we're gonna look at our analytics and we're gonna post Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Okay, and then we're gonna dig in a little bit deeper. What times are we gonna post? So then we would look at what times our target audiences are on. That's not as important on things like TikTok. So that's different on what platform you're speaking about, because some platforms, it doesn't matter what time you post at. It's more about what you're posting and that it's a good video than what times. But I don't think, I will never tell people, even when I'm meeting with anybody, I will always say, start low and stay consistent. So if you're like, I've never been on social media before, I will tell you to start with 2 posts a week. I won't even tell you to do 3. Now, when people are posting every day, what are they posting every day? You want to make sure that when you're posting 3 times a week, that it's going to get good reach, engagement, and that you're going to get comments on it. Because if not, then what are you throwing out there? Most people are going to, if it's a quote 3 times a week, like, come on, like that's like fluffy stuff. You don't have, who has something to post every day? That needs to go to your stories. So I will do sometimes on a day, I'll do 4 or 5 stories. And that's getting way more people seeing that than my post every day. Sometimes even now, because I have my son, to be honest, I only post twice a week on my Facebook and Instagram. But it gets really high engagement because I spend a lot of time on what I'm going to be posting. But most people are tuning into my stories, to be honest. Yeah, good question.
Now, Adele had a good follow-up question. What analytics software do you use for social media platforms and how helpful are they?
Okay, so for all my clients that I manage their social media, I give them every month basically a report of their analytics. Now, I am super nerdy, so I actually do it the organic way because I actually like to look at what this, not what a software is spewing out. I actually like to look on each platform. This might sound like a lot of work, but there is a reason behind it because sometimes that software will have glitches. And why I'm saying this is when I was in the corporate world, I used Sprout Social, which is probably the best one out there. I only tell people to use it if they're a big company because it is very expensive, but there's a reason behind it. It doesn't have much glitches. It also does social listening. It also tells you what hashtags to use. There's a lot more features on Sprout Social, but it's expensive. But when I was on Sprout Social, they gave a really good analytical report as well. But the problem is if that's not something that you're going to want to pay for, sometimes if you look at, you use something like Hootsuite, or Hootsuite would be the one that I would recommend to use to look at your analytics. But what I actually do, and I'm going to tell you to do, is actually look on your Facebook analytics yourself and make an actual, I use Excel and I have an Excel for each client that I do per month. And I put in certain metrics for certain platforms and I go in and I put the data in every month. And then I send it to them. And then I have either, some of them will just look at it, but some of them I have a meeting with every month and we go over the analytics and then we'll tweak our content calendar for the next month. So again, if I'm just spewing out these numbers and sending them to some of my clients, some of them have been working with me for 3 years, so they kind of know that they just look at it, they kind of know, they know I'm going to tweak the content calendar anyways. But if it's a new client, they really want to have that meeting once a month to go, okay, so why did that content get the most engagement? Why did that one get the most reach? Why did that one? Okay, so we need to do more of that. So Monika, this month, make sure you do more of that. So again, if you're not looking at things and you don't have targets, for instance, a target can be a goal that I was speaking about earlier, can be, I want to grow my Instagram account by 50 followers every month. If we don't have metrics, then how are my clients going to know that I'm meeting those metrics? The only reason they're going to stay with me is because I'm meeting those metrics. And let's be honest, I'm making them money. Metrics are money. So if they're getting those views and those reaches and they're like, she's doing what she's supposed to be doing and she's making me money, people are seeing my stuff, we're getting leads, we're getting referrals. Again, your analytics will tell you if you're having people click on your website, you can have it down to if they're sending you a lead, they're messaging the client. There's lots of analytics to look into. But you have to do the work, is the biggest thing. Most people have never looked at their analytics. They're like, what's that? So on Instagram, you go on your Instagram account, it's called Insights. And on there you can see things like who's following you, so the age range. You can see locational, so cities, provinces. You can also see what content is doing the best. So you'll see your posts, which ones are doing the best. You can change like some of the metrics, so reach, impressions, engagement. The biggest metrics to watch out of all of them is your engagement. Engagement means what people are doing on the post. So are they liking it? Are they commenting on it? Because that's really what helps you spew your stuff up in the algorithm. So if I do a post and somebody comments on it and let's say they like it, that's going to shoot it up. So that's helping my engagement rate.
Okay, Mandy has, how long should a Facebook or Instagram post be? She likes to give a lot of info. So she's she's a Reiki and nutritional consultant,
Yeah.
but she was told no one reads posts and to not post more than a paragraph.
So I've actually helped, before I niched in the last 3 years, I used to help a lot of people in actually the health and wellness industry. So a lot of spas, massage places, actually in Edmonton, Sherwood Park, Leduc. And the biggest thing is that with your audience and everybody's audience, attention spans are very short nowadays, if not becoming shorter. I'm not insulting anybody, it's just what it is. We're also very busy people. So we're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. So we don't have the time to read your huge long thing. Also, I always put it this way. How much do you read when you go to a post? I literally will tell people that they shouldn't have anywhere between 3 paragraphs. Any more than 3 paragraphs, most people are not going to read past that. Sometimes I'll literally have 2 sentences because that's people's attention spans nowadays. It's okay to have a longer one, but not every post being really long. If you're like, okay, well, this post, I need to really describe, the nutritional value of whatever, or hey, I really need to describe what this massage treatment is. That's okay if one of your 3 posts for the week is really long, but the other 2 are shorter. Because most people aren't going to read it all.
Would it be better to put it into a reel?
Yes. So again, that's another way of doing it. So if you're wanting to describe, hey, what's the nutritional value of this drink in here? Then putting this here and then pointing to it and having it, okay, the nutritional values are and the reel is going to catch people's attention a lot better than putting it all in a text. Again, people will notice that a lot quicker than just reading that. Attention spans are very short. I'm sure most of you would say, do you read long ones? If anything, you skim read and you'll kind of just, okay, first couple sentences. Biggest thing too is your posts, if they're really long, that'll do better on things like certain platforms, right? So things on like Instagram and TikTok, people are going to read something really long, but they might read something really long on things like Facebook or LinkedIn. People might read a blog or an article more on LinkedIn. So for me, my content is different on each platform. On LinkedIn, I'll share articles or blogs or my own blog because a lot of people are like, hey, Monika, thanks for posting the best way to grow my Instagram account. And it's from, Later or some other company that is writing it about it. And they're like, hey, I know if I follow Monika, she's always update on everything. So she's going to post those updates or those things that are happening on LinkedIn. That's the thing is each platform has a different content way of thinking. So people like to read, or even on LinkedIn, I'll do polls all the time. So what's your favorite social media platform? And I'll put Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn and see what people like, but people love reels or people love polls on LinkedIn. I'm sure you've even noticed that, Cecile, as when I do it, I get like 30 people that will do it. And I'm like, hey, who are these 30 people? Well, it's just something fun for them to do. And they like to see what the end result is. So, okay, they might think that it's going to be LinkedIn, but no, it's Instagram. So it's good for businesses to test things out on these social media platforms as well. And make sure you have fun.
Yeah.
That's the biggest one, is make sure you have fun and don't overthink it. Just stick to the posts and get stuff out there.
Okay, one last question.
Yeah.
James says his product isn't ready to put on social media yet. Is it a bad idea to start using social media to get my name out there?
So that's actually a really good question. So a lot of businesses will, or entrepreneurs that I'm working with, they'll say, hey, well, I don't have an actual product right now. Like it's in we're getting it made, we're kind of figuring out. I'll say, okay, well, you can set up if you know it's going to be ready in a month, start your accounts, but maybe just start 1 or 2 and start teasing. So if you have your logo, you can start doing your logo on things and making those social media platforms and just doing like, I'm going to make a graphic with a question post. I'm going to make a teaser about what the services are going to be. Start just making things with teasing and show yourself. So again, getting nice photography photos is a good idea as a business owner because you're going to have to show your face. You don't have to get photos all the time, like even once a year, but start teasing, hi, I'm Monika and I'm the owner of Monika Social, and that way. So if it's a product, you can start teasing people about the product, and even just doing things like a reel to tease people about what's to come, or your launch date, or where's your location. Hey, soon on Jasper Ave, I'm gonna have the store opening, stay tuned. So it's a good idea to start now so that you're building your brand.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you so much.
I'm gonna miss ya.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Have a great day. On Wednesday, we're with the City of Edmonton, all about licensing. And Thursday at 4 o'clock, we're doing pizza with Craig Elias from Calgary.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Just have a question.